Why do you think you're the best candidate to coach here?
Well, I've been doing a podcast with you for 3 months, so I'm ready to be an NBA coach.
I don't know what could make you more qualified than that. So how do you plan on running your rotations?
I'll just ask you.
Oh, I like that. And how would you describe your coaching philosophy?
Let you do whatever you want.
That's damn fine coaching.
Why, thank you. And if it goes poorly, you know I'll get all the blame.
You're hired. Now let me introduce you to our starting point guard. Is this your new assistant coach, Papa?
The Lakers made a huge mistake hiring J.J. Reddick, and I'm going to explain to you why. But before we get into that, I just want to ask you guys to leave a like underneath this video, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to the channel for more NBA content. And if you want more NBA takes, you can follow me on Twitter/X at @E_Camia. Now, let's jump into this topic. The Lakers started off the offseason on the wrong foot. This was the wrong thing for the Lakers to do. And I just want to preface that this is going to be a J.J. Reddick video, but even though it's going to be a critique of J.J. Reddick, I in no way want this to be perceived as a diss towards J.J. Reddick. I actually like J.J. Reddick. I think J.J. Reddick brings a lot to the NBA community. I think he was one of the best analysts on TV, up there with guys like Shannon Sharp. So this is not a diss towards him at all. He's a very brilliant guy, and I appreciate J.J. Reddick and what he does for the community, but he was the wrong hire for this Lakers head coaching job. Why? Number one, because of the inexperience that he has. And look, I think I understand what the Lakers were trying to do. So reports came out that the Lakers were trying to emulate and build what the Miami Heat have. The Miami Heat's head coach, Erik Spoelstra, has been the head coach for them since 2010, and he was placed there by the legendary Pat Riley himself, and the Miami Heat have refused to move off of him, dating back to when LeBron first joined the Miami Heat all the way back in 2010. LeBron, known for getting his head coaches fired, tried to get Erik Spoelstra fired at one point, but Pat Riley refused, and ever since then, the rest is history. Erik Spoelstra has been with the Miami Heat since 2010, has gone to 5 finals, 3 with LeBron, and 2 without LeBron in 2020 and in 2023. That's what the Lakers were trying to emulate and create with this hire of J.J. Reddick. The report on the street is that the Lakers wanted to hire a guy that was young, that was brilliant in basketball, and that was going to be there for decades to come, because unlike the Miami Heat, the Lakers haven't had a head coach stay more than 3 years as a head coach for them since Phil Jackson. They've had Mike D'Antoni, they've had Luke Walton, they've had Darvin Ham recently, they had Frank Vogel. The story's the same. The tenure has been 3 years and they're out. And so the Lakers have seen this as very unstable. Players don't know what they're always going to be getting. And young players sometimes feel like they don't have the continuity that they need in order to develop. And so they're trying to create what the Miami Heat have and what the Golden State Warriors have. Like the Miami Heat, the Warriors also hired Steve Kerr all the way back in 2014, and he's been with them ever since. That's 10 years. And he's won 4 championships with them and has been to 5 NBA finals. And so the Lakers want to recreate that. And I understand and I actually appreciate, and I think that's the good route to go. But I think right idea, poor execution with the hiring of J.J. Reddick. I think there were multiple guys that the Lakers could have looked for in order to fill this hiring job, right? What this reminds me of is the Steve Nash hire by the Brooklyn Nets a couple years ago. How did that work out? If you guys remember, Steve Nash was hired by the Brooklyn Nets, right? Steve Nash was relatively young for a head coach, but he was charged with doing almost the impossible, and now was coaching the trio of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, and it did not work out for him. Forget about the X and O's of basketball for a second. Let's look at the aspect of personnel that the coaches have to deal with. Part of being a head coach is being able to manage personalities, and more importantly, manage very big egos. You had 3 of the biggest egos in a room for Steve Nash to coach, to manage, and he had no experience, like J.J. Reddick, no experience coaching at all. But at least in his case, he had experience being around players and kind of mentoring players because he was an assistant player developer for the Golden State Warriors under Steve Kerr. But J.J. Reddick doesn't have any of that. And even still, his players undermined his authority. His players didn't give him the respect that he thought he deserved. In fact, I remember there was an incident that came out in which reports came that Kyrie Irving told him to give back his 2 MVPs to Kobe Bryant because he didn't deserve it. That's the amount of disrespect that he was getting from these players that just did not respect him as a head coach. And they probably thought there was someone out there that was probably better suited for the job. And now listen, I think the Brooklyn Nets situation might have been able to end differently if Steve Nash wasn't actually the head coach. Because if you remember, Steve Nash failed to rein in Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving would disrespect Steve Nash and just go off for 1 week and not tell Steve Nash what he was doing. He would take games off, and Steve Nash didn't have the tools on how to deal with a personality like this. Contrast that with a head coach like Phil Jackson. If you guys remember, if you go back and you watch The Last Dance and they go through the coaching woes that the Bulls had during their last dance, you can tell and you can see how well Phil Jackson was able to manage the personalities of Dennis Rodman, Michael Jordan, and Scottie Pippen. Dennis Rodman, kind of like Kyrie Irving, would just want to leave and go to Vegas and blow off some steam. And Phil Jackson understood this, and he would give him a longer leash for a while, but then he would rein him in, and he would know just the right things to do. And so there's that personnel aspect of the job, how to manage personalities, how to manage people, that I don't think younger coaches, particularly like Steve Nash and J.J. Reddick, don't know how to do. And it could use some experience by being an assistant head coach first. And that is something that J.J. Reddick doesn't have. J.J. Reddick is a brilliant basketball mind, so I'm told. But what's the actual evidence for this? Well, the evidence that people have put up, including J.J. Reddick, is that he's been around great basketball minds, like being coached by Coach K at Duke. And I'm like, that's not really a qualifier. That doesn't really mean you should be able to helm a franchise like the Lakers, right? It doesn't make any sense. And I think there were a plethora of guys that the Lakers could have looked for. There are 30 teams in the NBA. Each team has a coaching staff and multiple assistant head coaches that the Lakers could have taken their time, do their due diligence, and go guy by guy and trying to find a guy that fits all the boxes they were looking to check off. Young, has a hard work ethic, brilliant basketball mind, is going to be willing to stay in Los Angeles for 15 years or so. I think there were a bunch of guys that the Lakers could have found that fit that criteria that aren't J.J. Reddick. Then there is the fact that J.J. Reddick is 39. Again, J.J. Reddick is very young. But here's the thing. LeBron James has been known, he's notorious for undermining his head coaches, getting them fired, blaming them, overruling them when time gets tough. I remember watching LeBron James play for David Blatt in Cleveland, the first year that LeBron returned to Cleveland after Miami, and David Blatt was hired, and LeBron just had total disrespect for him. He didn't respect him as a head coach. Now, David Blatt was from overseas. He wasn't American. He coached overseas, and LeBron seemed like he didn't care or respect him at all, to the point where I remember were plays that David Blatt wrote up, and LeBron in the huddle, literally you could see LeBron just take the board from David Blatt and write the play himself. LeBron's notorious for that, undermining head coaches, challenging their authorities, and asserting his will. You expect me to believe that LeBron James is going to capitulate to J.J. Reddick when the Lakers need to make a play? You expect me to think that LeBron is going to defer to J.J. Reddick? No. J.J. Reddick is only a few months older than LeBron James. They're buddies. They have a podcast together in which they're talking about basketball with their hats backward. They look like a bunch of college guys talking about sports at a bar. This is not someone that LeBron James particularly is going to capitulate or defer to. Because why? Because LeBron probably thinks he knows more basketball than J.J. Reddick, and he probably does. This is a guy that LeBron James used to beat on a regular basis, and he probably knows more basketball, has a higher IQ of basketball than J.J. Reddick. And it's going to be that much easier for him to just undermine J.J. Reddick because he's the same age, they're both 39. And so this was just a terrible hire on that dimension, and God forbid it doesn't work out. J.J. Reddick's butt is the one that's going to get fired. Those are my thoughts on this whole situation. If you like this kind of content, again, make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think this is the right hire for the Lakers, or do you think there was someone else somewhere out there that deserved this job more, that could have done a better job? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Leave a like underneath this video. and hit the subscribe button for more NBA content, and don't forget to follow on X/Twitter.